Hello and welcome to another edition of Executive Corner Expert Talks. I'm James Preston, and in this Expert Talk, I'll be shining the spotlight on XGrowth, a company dedicated to assisting B2B tech companies close more mid-market and enterprise deals. And in order to find out exactly how XGrowth does it, there's no one better to talk to than the founder and director of XGrowth, Shahin Hoda. Shahin, a very warm welcome to you.
James, thanks for having me.
Shahin, great to have you here. Just before we get to the finer points of XGrowth, how is it down in Victoria at the moment? No COVID cases in 6 days. The Melbourne Grand Prix, though, that's now apparently been cancelled, and that's not until November. Is there a bit of confusion operating around at the moment? Is it affecting how you're running XGrowth?
Not necessarily how we run XGrowth. I think we went as a company remote pretty early on in the whole process of COVID. And that's served us well, and we were lucky to be able to go remote. A lot of companies weren't able to, but there's definitely a little bit of confusion, especially what is happening now across Australia. That used to be us, and now it's like everywhere else is going lockdown, and I feel like the Victorians are like, should we go in lockdown or not? What's happening? So there's definitely a little bit of confusion.
No, I think you've had your turn. You can certainly push it back onto us. It's our time for it. We don't want it either, but that's just how it works. But good to hear that it hasn't really affected the business. Let's get stuck into the details itself now. How do you help businesses in rolling out an account-based initiative in their organisations?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I think it's important to define why account-based and why is that important. I think a lot of organizations, and especially in the B2B space, when businesses are selling to another business, things have become a lot more complicated over time, and as a result, your approach to your marketing and sales need to get more and more sophisticated, and that's where we kind of come in, where we, in a nutshell, compared to traditional marketing strategies where somebody would go and say, you know what, we're going to put our message out there to the whole market and make sure that everybody hears about it. Our approach is a little bit different, where we say, let's identify the most important accounts for you, and let's say there would be 50 accounts, and only market to those 50 accounts, and let's not waste our resources and energy for the wider market, because that might not be a good fit. So that's the approach that we take, and that's why it's a lot of organizations are picking that up, especially with COVID. It's become more important because resources are strained in some organizations, and a lot of businesses are trying to become a lot more targeted with their approach to the market.
Well, look, it seems quite streamlined, and it's very specific as well in its focus, as opposed to just casting a broad net. Why do you think there's not more businesses doing that kind of advertising?
I think there are two challenges. One, it's a new field. It's a new area that people are exploring. It really exploded in the US in about 2014, 2015, and it's making its way to Australia as well. And it's really in the past 1 or 2 years that we're starting to see a lot of people talking about it here. So I think there's a little bit of a little bit of market awareness for business owners or marketing professionals to get more familiar with it. But also, it's a very resource intensive approach, because and it's a complex approach, because you're going very deep into an account. You want to do a lot of research. So if somebody is looking at a massive telco like Telstra, they got to do a lot of research into Telstra, understand their initiatives, and that makes it challenging for some of the smaller organizations to adopt it. But the big public organizations, the IBMs of the world, the Salesforce of the world, the Microsoft of the world, they've been doing this for a while.
I'd imagine it's also a very different focus. I mean, if you're looking to advertise and market to the public, you're after a general consensus of potentially millions of people, whereas this is very much focused on a specific sort of group of other businesses that you're trying to, I suppose, access in a different way. Do you approach it differently? I mean, is there a significant level of difference in taking, for example, a major marketing campaign around State of Origin or the AFL compared to, for example, no, we're trying to sell this business to this specific business? How does that differ?
There are a couple of differences. One is a really high collaboration with sales, where marketing previously were very independent, and they would kind of do their own activity and maybe pass stuff to sales. or they're kind of separate departments from sales. So a very high collaboration between sales is one of the things that is different. The other thing is you start to leverage a lot of different channels, a lot of different pathways to your customer. So you would hear a lot about a business guru talking about, hey, do you know how to run Facebook ads? And we are going to get you customers through Facebook, or do SEO, or do whatever. With an account-based strategy, you have to take all of that into account in order to be able to get a hold of some of these accounts that you're trying to target. So leveraging your Facebook and LinkedIn and different types of ads, email, call, maybe direct mail if people are back in the office. So having that multi-channel approach is really key. And you just got to think about it. It becomes a lot more personal. It becomes extremely personal to the account that you're going after, because you say, hey, I'm trying to close, for example, Telstra, and there are 50 people in Telstra that are important for me, and I know them by name, and I'm going to have a very personalized approach for them.
Yeah, well, I guess as we get more segmented in many ways between things like, different streaming providers, everything gets broken down into small little pockets here and there. It's the same thing for business as well, same thing for marketing too. And we're in an age of convergence. So I suppose there are so many different elements you have to consider as well whenever you're doing one of these proposals. Could you give us a little more insight into your fully integrated customer acquisition pipeline?
Yeah, so one of the things that businesses have realized, especially with COVID, is the importance of your existing customers. So it's great. Everybody loves the hunt. Everybody loves to go out and acquire new customers and bring them on board, and that's a lot of fun. But it's very costly, and at the same time with COVID, a lot of people realize that's not sustainable. They need to focus on existing customers, because especially at the peak, no one was buying anything, because everybody was scared and everyone was like, pause everything and we're not going to make any changes. So a lot of businesses realize that they need to start focusing on their existing customers and hey, how can we take this customer that is spending $200,000 with us to $1 million customer, or they're spending $5,000 with us to a $100,000 customer. So those strategies of implementing marketing strategies on existing customers are a little bit different, and that's why we focus on a lot of that. We'll work with our clients in terms of acquisition, an area again that everybody loves, but also, hey, if they're in in B2B sales, cycles could be very long. It could be 6, 9, 12 months until you close a customer. So what are we going to do with them in that process of turning them into a customer? But also towards the other end, when they are a customer, how are we going to approach them to delight them and make sure that we can increase our share of wallet? So that's and that's what we mean by a fully integrated process for marketing.
Look, it almost sounds like it's a parallel with the dating world. You've got to reel them in, do the courtship to start with, but then you've got to make sure you're keeping them on their toes, making sure the flowers keep coming in every 6 months or so. But I want to focus a little further on XGrowth here with your previous work as well, particularly OneSpace, because this is a company that you've worked quite closely with. You've turned them from having essentially no leads to now having their own sales pipeline of sorts. Could you walk us through the process with that particular client?
Yeah, sure thing. So, that OneSpace was an example where we worked heavily with the management team. So there was not a very strong. There was some marketing experience there, but there was not a lot. So we did a lot of work with the management team in terms of understanding the value proposition of that solution to the market. So what is it exactly we're trying everybody to know, and who is it exactly that we want to know about that? And once we had a good understanding, in their case, it was the financial services, specifically the accounting firms that they were targeting. Once we had a good understanding about that, we went and created a series of assets, whether they were digital or offline assets, in order to get in front of those organizations to basically present that value prop to them, to those accounting firms that we're targeting. So that could look like an ebook, it could look like blogs, it could be in some of the other clients could be podcasts, it could be, there's a wide range of digital assets that one can create. So making sure those are created and then working very closely with the sales team in order to not only put that value prop in front of the customer through some of the digital channels, but also through the sales team reaching out and putting this useful material in front of them. And that was a process that we were able to create a pretty solid pipeline for that team and a lot of other customers of ours.
Now, you were mentioning there as well, there's plenty of different digital assets that you can touch on. Obviously, podcasting was one you mentioned. That's quite a niche sort of area there where I guess it does, require a fair bit of expertise around the audio space, how to set up acoustic treatments. With XGrowth, what services do you host in-house? Are there anything that you sort of outsource when it comes to maybe a more specialized field to help your clients?
There definitely are certain areas that we do outsource. As I said earlier, because every single approach that we take is a multi-channel approach, we are leveraging advertising, we're leveraging email, we're leveraging calls, we're leveraging direct mail. There are certain parts that we have partners that we've been working on for a long time that we bring in to help us with those channels. So, we might have a partner that does the logistics for direct mail. We might, I'll give you an example. We had one client that we sent a box of cupcake to them, right? And on the cupcake, it said, Google your name. And once they did Google their name, we had bought their name as an ad on Google with a dedicated landing page for them that they would click on. They would go there, there would be a video, and they would say, hey, James, thanks a lot for jumping on. This is the reason we reached out to you. This is why we would like to have a chat to you. And this is our value prop. But that direct mail piece is a headache of logistics. So we would have partners that would help us with making sure that happens. But everything that we bring to the mix, we want to make sure that it contributes to that account-based approach.
I'm speaking with Shahin Hoda, who is the founder and director of XGrowth for our Executive Corner Expert Talks. Now, Shahin, just before I let you go, what are the business outcomes that you drive for?
For our clients, James, is that what you mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the number one metric that we measure, and I think everybody should look at when they're working in the B2B space and their revenue focus is how many meetings can I book for my salespeople? That is probably one of the closest metrics to revenue. And unfortunately, in the marketing space, there are a lot of providers that would come in and they would say, hey, look at these impressions that we got and how many people looked at your ads. And, here are some leads that we had for you. And those are, I think, in many ways, very misleading metrics to look at. So the number one objective that we have whenever we work with our clients is, did we get meetings with the right people? Were we able to put the sales team in front of the right people? To have the right conversation with them. That's the number one goal that we have.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, that should be any company's goal is always quality over quantity. So great to see that's your approach as well. Now, just before I let you go here, I know that you're doing a lot of stuff in the account-based marketing area, but you're also into a couple of other domains. What exactly do you have your fingers in?
So we have a community called Growth Colony, and Growth Colony is a B2B community where we talk with CMOs and marketing directors about a wide range of things that they're doing, about from marketing leadership to some of the tactics that are in the relevant right now in the space, to marketing strategy. We cover a wide range of things, and we've had people like CMO of Salesforce or from Cisco, some of these giant tech organizations that kind of dominate the landscape, the financial landscape, and also other aspects of our life right there to talk about some of these components. So we have Growth Calling that we focus on, and that includes our events and podcasts. We also do a fair bit of software development. That's a piece that comes in quite often as part of the work that we're doing for our clients. There's a lot of software development work that we need to address and our clients need help with. Those are probably two areas that are a little bit different than or not 100% account-based marketing focused that take up a lot of my time these days.
Yeah, look, it seems like it's all systems go for XGrowth moving forward. Shahin, thank you so much for your time. Where can we get all the details? What's the website? You could
look us up on XGrowth. That's XGrowth.com.au and or growthcolony.org. those are two websites that you can get more information.
Brilliant. Well, Shahin, been a lot of fun, mate. Hopefully we can do it again in the future.
Sounds great, James. Thanks for having me.
Not a worry at all. That's Shahin Hoda, founder and director of XGrowth. And if you missed any part of our conversation, you can check it out on our YouTube channel, 𝐾𝐤𝐴 Media, along with all of our previous expert talks. I'm James Preston, reminding you to stay apprised and invest wise with 𝐾𝐤𝐴.